Hey everybody, it's Tony George along with the quarterback himself, Sean Salisbury, host of the Sean Salisbury Show on iHeartRadio and the best follow on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. And we're talking the big game in the Big Ten this weekend between Penn State and Michigan. And Michigan travels on the road again, Sean, against a ranked team again in a big game again. All these are check marks in raising red flags when it comes to Jim Harbaugh coaching a big game here. And of course, right now, Michigan -1 total, 48.5 here. And Michigan bounced back off that loss, took care of business against a decent Indiana team. And Penn State's had a couple of boo-boos himself. But there's a lot on the line here, Sean. Michigan, can Jim Harbaugh win a big one in Happy Valley in a national spotlight game?
Yeah, I don't know if he can beat Ohio State. We'll see, but they're going to win this game. It is going to be physical and nasty, and maybe, just maybe, and I know it didn't happen against Michigan State, but this is almost a pick 'em is the way it is, and Michigan's a better team. And that's a hard place to play. That's loud.
Yeah.
There's one way in and one way out, and you don't want to go out a loser. I think this is a low-scoring slugfest, but I think the physical team wins, and I think Harbaugh. It won't look pretty. They'll fly back, but they will. They're in a position now. What are they sitting in the? What is it? The 6 hole now. I mean, with a chance to really hope that somebody in front of them, whether it's an Oregon who's got an easy schedule, whether it's an Ohio State who they're going to run into anyway and control that destiny. And then the Alabama, Georgia thing, and then Cincinnati, who's going to go undefeated because they don't have a tough schedule, but they're not in a Power 5 situation. So Michigan can basically, in truth, Tony, control their destiny. If they run the table, beat Ohio State, they got some tough games. They got to take care of this one against Penn State. If they do that, a one-loss Big Ten team with a Big Ten champion is more than likely going to be in the Final Four, I would think, over an undefeated Cincinnati team. This is too big for Michigan. I don't think Harbaugh chokes this one. I think their physicality wins out. Quarterback makes a few plays as long as Jim doesn't get cute with the 2-quarterback system and takes care under pressure. I like Michigan in this game on the road, and it's basically a pick 'em, but I got Michigan.
This is a huge game for Harbaugh in terms of his failures against in big games against ranked opponents is well documented. He's from your era of quarterback in the NFL. He's a hard-nosed, tough, tough-nosed type guy. He did it, and I think he's a good football coach. A lot of that, he just hasn't had good enough teams to beat the Ohio States that were just loaded. I mean, they were just loaded for all those years. Yeah, too much speed for them.
Right. Yep.
Bear in mind that Penn State against lowly Maryland last week, even though they got the cover, and I had them. I laid the number with them, and we barely got that. But in the fourth quarter, they were tied 14-14 with Maryland before they finally pulled away. Maryland threw a pick six, early in the fourth quarter, which really took them out of that game. They never recovered from that when they had done everything they could to hang in there. It's interesting also, Sean, because this kind of ties into USC a little bit, your alma mater. There's a lot of talk out there about Franklin stepping down and going to USC in the offseason. Just curious to know, being a kind of a high-profile, player there and a high-profile, alma mater of yours, what have you heard on that? Anything?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk on it, Tony, that he's one of those names that they're heavily interested in. You hear the name Luke Fickell. There'll be a couple names that are maybe have a little closer tie to USC, and you're going to hear some big names as well. But James Franklin, the Mel Tuckers of the world, although he's being mentioned more for an LSU gig, and LSU apparently likes Franklin as well. When you're that hot guy, they stand in line, and there's no two better jobs that are going to be open in the country than Southern Cal and LSU. So, yes, his name's been bannered about because he's energetic. He seems to win where he goes. And the big key is, can he recruit? I mean, he recruits, but the question is recruiting LA, keeping players in town. I guess when there's energy, you can recruit anywhere. And he's got that. But the next guy at SC, and if it's James Franklin, who they are, who's been talked about. Now, how serious we'll know probably when the season's over. But, I mean, soon after the season's over, should I say. But I would imagine that James Franklin energy does match those of his players, and I think that's going to be important in the next head coach there, because that name, image, and likeness. Happy Valley's a bit different from LA, as was Vanderbilt as well. I think James Franklin was there first.
Yeah.
So he's got some play. He's got some work to do. Penn State, big program, but Happy Valley's not LA, so he'll have to weigh that too. But I would imagine his agents have already been talked to by USC, Tony.
Yeah, I was hoping to see your old friend Jack Del Rio's name surface. I don't think you're going to get Jack. I don't think you're going to get Jack in college, just with the rules, the recruiting, all the different things. He's an NFL guy now, and a good defensive coordinator. And, I know he's a friend of yours, and
big time.
Unbelievable as it sounds, when he played for Kansas City as a player, my wife used to cut his wife's hair. So,
nice.
I mean, yeah. So when
Great
I lived
family.
in Kansas City, yeah, good
Yep.
family. So
Yep.
nonetheless, Sean, I agree with you. I'm going to take the lean. I know you like Michigan here. I don't have it in me to back Harbaugh until he wins a big one, but we'll give you a twofer. You mentioned it right out of the gate. You hit the nail on the head. This is a slugfest. These two defenses not allowing over 20 points a game. And you have kind of a limited quarterback with McNamara right now, just because he's young. I like the under here. This easily could be a 14-10 ball game, 13-10, 20-17. Either way, honestly, I think it comes down to, a couple of big plays, to extend a drive on third down, maybe a big special teams play, maybe a crucial penalty late in the game to turn the tide one way or the other. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out slugfest. And Sean Salisbury, host of the Sean Salisbury Show on iHeartRadio, he likes the Michigan Wolverines here. He thinks Harbaugh can get it done in a big spot. And I like the under. I don't think there's going to – if anybody says this is going to be one of these like Oklahoma State Bedlam Series shootouts, it isn't. This is your classic Big Ten football game in November against two heavyweights going at it. And I think yards and points are going to be hard to come by with a couple of really good defenses on the field this week. And I think the stars in this game that are going to shine are on the defensive side of the ball.
And you better be sure your kicker better be good. It'll probably be a little bit cold, and it may be that it's a field goal game regardless of who wins this. That I can guarantee you.
I agree 100%, folks. Be sure and tune in to our NFL pick as Sean Salisbury's Las Vegas Raiders are taking on my Kansas City Chiefs, and I've got 2 tickets to paradise to Allegiant Stadium going to the game with Mrs. George on Sunday. So be sure and tune in for the verbal battle royale about the Chiefs and the Raiders by Sean and I right here on this channel. Thanks for tuning in.